Welcome to Hollywood Impact. My name is Eric. With me, as always, is Christian.
Thank you. It's good to see you all. It's good to be back. It's good to be back into the routine of doing stuff.
Heck yeah. So today, we're going to do Deadpool and Wolverine. This is part one.
This video is specifically spoiler-free.
All right, before we get into it, to give you a brief plot overview of the movie, Deadpool, living a peaceful life, is recruited by the Time Variance Authority, or the TVA, to protect the multiverse. To accomplish this, he teams up with Wolverine. Together, they embark on a mission to save their world from a catastrophic threat that could unravel the entire multiverse. The film stars Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman and a bunch of other people that I'm not going to spoil.
A bunch of other people.
Not in this part.
That's for a different video.
And it's directed by Shawn Levy. Christian, what did the critics say?
I wanted to pull some responses from Rotten Tomatoes about what some of the critics thought about this film, as well as some of the audience. So we'll go with the critics first. Grace Randolph from Beyond the Trailer also gave it a fresh score, saying, an instant comic book classic, and not just a return to form for Marvel, but a refreshing. Ryan Reynolds arrives at Marvel like a seismic event, while Hugh Jackman has never been better as a comics accurate Wolverine. Pure fun, especially for fans. And last but not least, for the critics, we have Sean Chandler, who is my personal inspiration for doing this in the first place. He said, it may not be one of the best films of the year, but it is one of the most entertaining. Reynolds brings laughs, Jackman brings the heart, and the fourth wall breaking nature of the franchise allows it to get away with some of the multiverse insanity. So those are some of the critic reviews, all seemingly positive. I mean, it has about an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's always it's done pretty well. The audience score is like 97.
Yeah.
It's like, I had to dig to find a few that did not like it. Marcy Bresnick, a 3.5 out of 5 stars. A little over the top with sex jokes and gore.
Have you seen Deadpool, Marcy?
I was like, have you seen these movies? And by the way, you still gave it 3.5 out of 5. You still gave it a decent score. It's like apparently it wasn't really over the top for you. And then the last one, I had to reread this one a couple times, but Chet T gave it a 1 out of 5 stars.
Chet.
And says, maybe I'm not the audience being 71 years old, but I still kind of like stories and acting. Not playing the character, but playing the actor playing the character is not doing it for me. To me, anyway, inane drivel with effects. Left before my popcorn was done. All right, well, clearly you are not in the majority of the opinion for
Chet.
people. But I just wanted to throw that out there just because I thought it was interesting.
Go back and watch Gone with the Wind or something, Chet.
Gone with the Wind. Let's go.
More your speed, it sounds like.
There we go. But yeah, that's what some of the people thought about it. And let's get into what we thought about it by starting with some of the things that we liked about this movie.
Dude, this movie rocked.
It's really good. It's pretty good.
And again, if I start to spoil something, stop me. But I mean, this movie had me from the opening credits.
Oh, 100%.
I was like, all right, let's go. I'm in. And for me, I thought it was the funniest Deadpool movie. Mm-hmm. I thought the action was great. You know, the tandem, the dynamic between Wolverine and Deadpool was awesome. And the cameos, which we won't mention other than they were cameos, were amazing.
Were so good.
They were so good. And not just there's not really much that I didn't like about this.
I feel the exact same way. I don't think this is a spoiler because I saw this all over TikTok this morning. But in the intro is Deadpool dancing to Bye 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 for NSYNC. It has nothing to do with the plot, so it's not really a spoiler. It's just fun.
Yeah.
And it is one of the best intros I've seen for a movie. Like, it reminds me a little bit of Guardians of the Galaxy, kind of. And the dynamic between the chemistry between these two actors is just insane.
Yeah.
So good. And this is a team-up film that I knew was going to be good, but was not something I was like, oh yeah, if I did a team-up film, I would pick these two over everybody else. It wasn't really on that list for me, but they balanced everything perfectly. I don't know, it seemed kind of hard to do so considering they have comic representation together, but they're two very different people, and doing it in comics versus doing it in real life are two very different things.
Yeah.
and I think they did a really good job. The soundtrack is actually awesome.
Really good. Yeah.
So soundtrack is great. So many laughs, but it actually has more heart than I intended, or that I thought they intended. And yeah, all the cameos are great, but really for me, like, what drives this film is like, it's full of laughs and humor, but there's like this always undertone of, there's like a serious emotional drive for the whole thing. And I think that is done really well.
Yeah. And I think it's important too for the audience to realize that even though it's a Deadpool movie in the MCU, it's very much Deadpool.
Oh yeah.
So like, if you have issues with profanity and the violence and the language and all of the inappropriate jokes, it's not for you.
It's Chet
You should have known
and
better,
Marcy
buddy.
Bresnick. They're not for you.
But no, it's just like, if you are unfamiliar with this and think it's going to be toned down because it is MCU Deadpool, it's not.
No.
So before you go, just know that going in.
Correct.
And if you were one of those that are like the 20th Century Fox Deadpool, dude, they got it. They got you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, there's so many like jokes and nods to all these things, but it really does pay like good homage, whatever, tribute to the 20th Century Fox products.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit surprised on how well they handled having certain characters in that I wasn't expecting. And even though they poked and fun at every single one of them, I think that it was in good taste still. It's in good taste, and it didn't compromise anything that the film was trying to get across.
No, and the characters and the actors were in on it too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But if there was one thing I could recommend for viewers, you don't have to go back and watch all the 20th Century Fox stuff, but I think you'll enjoy it a little bit better if you refamiliarize yourself with them, because there are some people that show up that you may not have realized were part of that.
Correct.
And you might want to check out Loki.
Yeah.
And I think if you check out Loki and just kind of get refreshed with that other stuff, I think it'll help those that are maybe more of the super casual fans to understand a little bit better, because there's lots of stuff that go way back.
100%. There were things I had to be like, oh yeah, that was a thing. I totally forgot about that. I like the villain. The villain was really interesting, actually. It was just like all of the antagonists in this film was not what I was expecting. Like, I saw some from the trailer, but I didn't really know what was going to happen, and I actually kind of enjoyed the direction that it was going.
Yeah.
And I once again, I didn't expect that. I love the Deadpool films, but I'm not big on X-Men. If you've seen our video about talking about X-Men 97, I said that I'm not super big on X-Men. But I do love Wolverine, and I love that he was given such a good story to help. It's Deadpool's movie, but it really is like co-leads. That's really what it is.
Yeah. As far as the Deadpools, where would you rank it?
I think it's probably my favorite. I had to debate this a little bit, but I really like all three. I think all three are very good films, and I had to debate whether this one or the first one was my favorite. But I think I like this one more, because I think as time goes on, I think I'll end up rewatching this one more.
I can't wait to rewatch this one.
Two.
Yeah.
Yes. And if you know me, I'm big on rewatchability. If I can rewatch it, I love it. So, yes.
Yeah,
so.
This is my favorite one by far too. Like, I really liked the first one. I enjoyed the second one, and I knew the fourth wall breaking is Deadpool's thing.
Yeah.
But it seemed like in the second one, I'm like, okay, we get it. Ryan Reynolds, you're breaking the fourth wall. And it just seemed to be too much. And then for whatever reason, I mean, they don't do it any less in this film, but it didn't bother me as much. I was I was totally fine with it. Whereas for whatever reason, I was kind of over it in the second film.
Yeah, but I agree. It's because I think the fourth wall breaks help when you're like in between worlds.
Yeah.
So like you have more things to poke and prod and make fun of, because now the scale is broadened.
Right.
And I think that gives him a multitude of more jokes he can use that aren't really touched on, because he spent the first two films, he made jokes about a couple Marvel things, a couple DC things. He made lots of jokes about X-Men stuff. Now he gets a lot more things he can make fun of, like Kevin Feige and Disney. And I'm glad that Kevin Feige was all for it. He's like, yeah, I love this. Like he totally greenlit. Just that's what his thing is. Make fun of us. So
one thing too, I've talked about in some of our other videos about my approach to watching movies. I've been guilty, I think, of the Marvel stuff anyway, going into it with the expectation that it's going to lead somewhere else, like where, like it's going to be. I think it was one of my biggest problems with like some of the DC films. Like I thought, for whatever reason, I thought Flash was going to like kind of be that reset for the whole DC thing.
I thought so too,
and it wasn't. So I quit. I just went into this film not like, all right, I wonder how they're going to do X-Men or da-da-da-da-da. I'm just like, all right, let's just go have fun watching a movie. And I think that is one reason why I just enjoyed this so much.
Expectations matter.
Yeah.
They absolutely matter.
And I think there's some people that go into the films like this just looking to nitpick and find fault, especially in Marvel movies.
I agree.
Because, people have been talking about how Marvel's down. Maybe a little, but we've been, year 16 we've been doing this?
Yeah.
There's going to be some ebbs and flows here, but even going back to some of the most recent films that have released, it's like, do you not forget that Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was like one of the best movies?
And it just came out
not that long ago.
Yeah.
But like they want to say Marvel's in trouble, and there's some films that didn't really work or didn't do what I'd hoped, but at the end of the day, this whole project, this whole MCU project has never happened before. And, you go back to 2008 with Iron Man and see where we're at now. I think it's been a huge success.
It's still a success. And and no matter what you all think, whether you love them or you hate them, you're still showing up to see them.
Yeah.
Like this is part of it. And I love that. I love that perspective on it. Just like a big overview, because there's been some low points in phase 4 and 5. But come on. Like,
we're talking about superheroes here.
Captain Marvel is not in my top 20 films for the MCU, and neither is
the Eternals. I know we disagree.
First, Thor movie, the first Incredible Hulk movie. Some of those that were in the first Iron Man 2 that were in the first phase of the MCU aren't even in my top 20 MCU films. So to act like it's always been perfect and it's just now dropping off is just completely untrue. You're just wrong, from a factual basis. Are there some lately that have dipped off a little bit?
Sure.
I would say so, of course. But I think that's the nature of things that go on for a long time. If you expect an 11-season show to have 11 banger seasons, it's just not going to happen, because you're going to compare them to other seasons so much that you're not going to like certain elements of certain seasons over others. The same thing works for this. This should be common sense. I feel like I shouldn't have to say this, but I am. But regardless, this movie is not really like a reboot to the MCU. It's not saving the MCU. It's introducing some characters into the MCU through really wild storytelling. And for what it is, which is a Deadpool film, it can get away with a lot of insanity stuff. And I think that fits in perfectly with what it's meant to be. And
I think it does a really good job, too, of paying respect to those older films, those earlier 100%. X-Men films, because as a kid, when I watched those the first time, I wasn't a kid, but I was younger.
Close enough.
And I remember, this is the first time I'm seeing the X-Men in live action, because I grew up on the cartoon, you know what I mean? And it was awesome. Now, if I go back and I'm fair and I rewatch some of those, maybe not so good, but still the nostalgia of it, I just thought it was really kind of well done how they provided some closure.
I agree.
To some of those characters that we won't mention in this episode.
We won't mention this
one. But, no, I don't know, man. This movie was fun. I can't wait to watch it again.
The only nitpick I have is that it's insane storytelling is fun, but it does feel mishmashy. So it's not. It's a little bit fragile. So if you push it around too much, it might crack. Because there's a lot of things that you just have to kind of suspend your disbelief over.
Oh, sure.
Because it jumps really quickly from thing to thing, and that's fine. But that's only if you're really looking for it. I mean, come on, it didn't worsen my experience of the movie. It's just something that you notice. Like, not every film's going to be perfect, and it's like, well, it had all this great stuff, but its story was not, was not super fleshed out or whatever. It's like, who cares?
Dude,
like, I had a good time.
We got Deadpool and Wolverine together.
Like, how cool is that? Like, we are at a point in time where all these comic book characters are coming together. How lucky are we?
Yeah.
Because imagine the people who were around when all these comic book characters first came out and have never gotten to see this come into fruition or passed away before their time.
Dude, I'm telling you.
That's crazy.
This is what they should do on a smaller scale with the Disney Plus shows.
I agree.
And I think we've talked about this before. Like, there's so many characters that we've seen one time and not really heard of since.
Yeah.
But if they focused on just team up TV shows, put Shang-Chi and Ant-Man together, Blade and Werewolf by Night, or something like that. Yeah. Some characters that's been introduced, but nothing's gone on with them yet. Put them together in a show.
I agree. I feel like they should, like, it's okay to have your TV show characters be in the movies. Like, I think that's great. But I think that honestly, it would be better if you spent less time trying to use your TV shows to set up things for movies by instead focusing on, okay, we have like movies where all that stuff happens that affects everything, but the TV shows, you should have like a universe, not like a universe, but like a little bubble of your own. Like, your shows affect each other, but they don't really affect the movies as much.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be more of a recipe for success. But we're not here to talk about that. But we are getting close to the end for this one, so let's go ahead and give this a score.
We're gonna give it a score.
We're gonna give it a score. I'm ready. Whenever you are.
9.5.
9.5.
9.5. Okay.
I'm gonna go also with a 9.5.
Yeah.
This is really good. This is one of the best MCU films, I think, in the last few years, besides like Guardians of the Galaxy and the Endgame and Infinity.
And just so like people
really good.
Understand, like, my ranking of it, a 10. 10s don't come around very often.
No.
Like Infinity War, Endgame, those are 10s.
Those are 10s.
But this one, it's Deadpool. It's hilarious. The action's great. It's a 9.5, easily.
Is it a perfect movie? No, but it fits exactly what it was going for. And I think that gives it a half score boost. Because I was about to give this a 9, but I'm like, you know what? 9.5 is right, because in this context, in this day and age, what it was going for, I think it accomplished just that.
Yep.
And I think that they deserve credit for that.
I agree. All right, guys, that's it for this episode. Check out part 2 coming soon, where we will dig in deep a little bit on some of these cameos and some of the other stuff. So, thank you.
Have a good one. See you later.